All right, are we live? I'm getting a little rolly button here. I think we're good. Uh, all right. Okay, I think we are actually live. If everything is live, we are stuck. Are we live? Okay, now it's gone. Okay, now we go. Hello, everyone. That was a really weird little glitchy thing. That's really weird. So it's saying that there are 0 people here, but there are folks in the chat, so that is not accurate. Yes, Andy, rolly button. I meant the when it tells you that it's waiting or something. That thing. A great Sky Troll anti-drama is hammered, apparently. Anyways, so I see that some super chats came in very early, so we will grab those and then do the usual hellos before they disappear. So we have Cabled41 says, looking forward to another Liberty Doll lightning round of super chats or troubleshooting technical problems. Very entertaining either way. Well, I am glad that you guys are entertained. Speaking of technical issues, I had a really unfortunate technical issue that made me very upset earlier today. So I actually recorded 2 videos for you guys. I spent 2 hours recording these videos. And then I went to upload them on my computer to edit them. And it turns out that my microphone died. And there was no sound in any of the videos or any of the clips, which sucks because, well, obviously because it wasted my time, but I was really hoping to get it through because, you know, the Patreons on the $10 level get outtakes, and there was a very loud blue jay that was sitting in my window, and so I decided to go talk to him. But you guys don't get that now because there's no sound. You're just gonna see me being like, and then get up and walk away, and that's about it. So that happened. That was cool. All right. And Trashman, who later on says, sorry, I hit the button early, says, live from the Iodine State. Is it the Iodine State? Okay. Live from the Iodine State, it's the lady that has the southern nights, the warm neighbors, and the good fortune for it to be McRib season. Gross. And with those positive thoughts, here's Dolly. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, oh my goodness. Who is that? Dragon's Talon. My goodness. Dude, what are you doing over here? Why is it not Dragon's Talon? Thank you very much. Says SCOTUS just shot down the Texas case due to allegedly lack of standing. I actually did see that right before I got on. I have found one of the best ways to get my news actually is to just set notifications on Twitter so that I get notifications every time Tim Pool posts something, because all he does, I swear the guy doesn't do anything else except media stuff. I swear he doesn't even sleep, because that dude, he's just posting articles and commenting on articles over on Twitter constantly. So if I want to know what's going on, I just got to scroll through Tim Pool's feed, and there's all kinds of articles and things like that. Anyways, all right, so let's see who's in. We have John Morgan, Jim, Christoph Harper. The door opened. Aw, Darrow's gonna go outside and play. Cabled41. Always amusing here, right? Kill Die Res Repeat, Bruce the Boss Brooks. We have Squid Monkey, Rerod, Shane Lackey, Warren Harrison, Mr. Hellspawn, Sinister, or Sinistar, 314. Tristan Goodrich, Robert Graham, Jason Wise, Tim Allen, Raymond Leverance, Cap'n Mac is here. Andy Robichaud, Iron Daisies, Gamma Rain, Alien Probe Victim. We have Mad Dog Eats Lives. Pirate Nomad, Richard Newman says no audio. Is that still a thing? Is that a thing on here? Okay, this says my microphone's working. Okay. Okay, well, I don't know. I was going to say clap if you can hear me for some reason, but let's see. Okay, well, no one else is saying no audio, so maybe that was just a reference to my videos. Okay. Let's see. Christoph Reed, P. Taylor, Jacob Boren, Robert Gaborko. Q says, can you recreate it for us? No, I cannot. Kelly Karshner, Brent Prosser. Let's see. And Trashman says that South Carolina was the iodine state in the 30s. Interesting. Good to know. Okay, so all right, let's dive into it. So there's a lot of interesting stuff happening. All right, so first off, okay, well, I guess we'll go right into the YouTube story because it's relevant to the Texas lawsuit that was just brought up. Oh, before we get there, I have two announcements. God, I'm so disorganized. Two announcements. Number one, there have been many people recently asking for ways to stay connected with other people in the chat. If something like, I don't know, YouTube goes down or Facebook goes down or whatever thing goes down, Christoph was kind enough to start a MeWe group. MeWe, I mentioned it on the show before. It is supposed to be a pro-free speech, pro-liberty platform. It's a social media platform that was started a couple of years ago, actually. But it is, are other people saying there's no audio? Brad the Magnificent points out, if you're watching on a computer, YouTube starts up muted. So hopefully that's just what's happening. Otherwise, I don't know. Trashman says tonight on the Dollhouse lip reading lessons. Okay. Matthew Adams says it's not bad. Okay. All right. Anyways, so yes, so there is a new MeWe group that Christoph was kind enough to start up. That is linked down in the description. We're also working on something called Locals. I have no idea what this is, but it's a thing that exists that Christoph has also been kind enough to set up and we'll be figuring out. Also, I guess I might be reviving the old Discord server. It was previously just for patrons and subscribers over on Subscribestar. I was never on it, so we ditched it, but that also might be a good way for people to keep in touch with each other, and we might be able to use it for like a call-in show function. So, that's what's going on with all of that. That is all wrapped up. Announcement number one. Announcement number two. I am super excited about this. There is a new partner to the channel. I am pumped, even though it's something so simple as coffee. So Blackout Coffee Company. Some of you folks might know about it already if you watch Guns and Gadgets, because Jared is involved with them. And it is actually a husband and wife team that roasts all of their own coffee beans. And they are so pro Second Amendment that there is a Second Amendment coffee line and a 1776 coffee line. They have ground, they have whole bean, they even have K-cups. They have tea now, but I am excited for the flavors because let me tell you, maybe it is my inner basic bitch. I don't know, but I am a sucker for some medium roast, like frou-frou flavors. and they have so many that I want to try, and I'm really excited about it because I love coffee. And they have flavors. I used to get, back in Massachusetts, there was this company called Mary Lou's, and they sometimes had like a special flavor of cinnamon French toast, and it was one of my favorite flavors they had. And this place, Blackout Coffee, has cinnamon French toast. I am pumped. I already have some on the way. So everyone check out Blackout Coffee. I believe they also work to help support ending or lessening, at least, like veteran suicide and all these other great causes. I hear they're really great people. So check them out down in the description. And everything ships in within like 2 to 3 days. So if you order something now, I mean, you're definitely going to get it before Christmas. And I know there's some controversy because I heard that Black Rifle Coffee was determined to have like donated to some Democrat causes and things like that. There is nothing like that with this company, at least nothing that I've heard of. And I mean, it's a small company, so if something like that was happening, we would know about it. All right, so that is all that. Now we're going to jump into some funky things that are happening over at YouTube. We have to be careful with how we talk about this as a disclaimer, because it could vary. I have to be careful to make sure that I don't say anything that gets me deleted, quite frankly. So I want to thank... there was someone that emailed me a screenshot of this blog article that came out from YouTube before I had even heard about it. So I really want to thank that person for sending that to me, because then it made me look into it a little bit more. So this is what we've got. So YouTube has their little blog that they do. Here we go. And this is where all, you know what? Hold on, let me fix this because this is going to bug me that you guys can see the top of that cabinet. Well, I guess that's what's happening. All right. So, YouTube does this blog, right? And this is where they release all of the information. Like anytime there's been some horrible controversial new policy that they've put forth and talked about how they're deleting people and their community standards and blah, 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 blah. This is where it gets revealed originally on the YouTube blog. This isn't anything like creators, at least creators like myself, don't get like personal little emails from YouTube or things like that. Some big people do because they're big and well liked. I'm not one of those people. I don't even have like a direct line to anyone at YouTube the way a lot of other bigger creators do. It used to be that the minute you hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, you got like a YouTube representative in your corner that was your direct line to the company. They don't do that anymore. First, it was you could apply for it during certain periods of the year, and now they put it so that you have to be invited. I am not cool enough to get invited, so I find out everything on the blog just like you folks do. So, YouTube has decided they are going to release new guidance around supporting the 2020 election. So, these are their updates. This is what they have to say. Over the past weeks and months, we've seen people coming to YouTube to learn more about where and how to vote, or learning about a candidate or an issue. We've seen news organizations grow their audience. Notice how they say news organizations? They're talking about your ABC, your NBC, your Fox, things like that. They are not talking about small creators like myself. This is actually part of the push that they've been making towards what they call authoritative content. And they have put out blogs in the past saying they are purposely going to be propping up news channels and pushing people towards those mainstream media and legacy media channels as opposed to smaller creators, because I don't know, they want to like think that they're Netflix now or like the new version of cable. So that's what they're talking about. And we've seen people turn to YouTube for the latest election results or simply to follow a historic event with the highest voting turnout in over a century in the United States. And you know why the turnout was so high? Well, I can't say with certainty that this is why the turnout was so high, but I have a few theories. Number one, first of all, Trump was hated, very violently hated by a lot of people. Number one. Number two, the new rules and widespread mail-in voting allowed people to go and canvass houses and literally go up and be like, oh, have you voted yet? No. Oh, here's a ballot. Here's a ballot. Here's a ballot. And we saw some of that happening in some of the videos that came out through Project Veritas. In those cases, there was also some issues going on. There was that woman that was like bribing people to change their votes in Texas. That was a GOP person, and she was like having them vote for Democrats for some reason. We've talked about it before. So yes, that is my theory as to why there was the highest ever voter turnout, especially considering with COVID in the blue states, there was a lot of concern about people going to the polls and But so you allow mail-in voting, well, it's a lot easier. All you have to do is put a piece of paper in the mail, basically, and you voted. Anyway, so they say our main goal going into the election season was to make sure we're connecting people with authoritative information. See, that is that word, authoritative. Their authoritative information and their authoritative sources, while also limiting the reach of misinformation and removing harmful content. Now, remember, YouTube last year, I believe, I want to say it was last December, had put out this blog where they were talking about, well, what makes something authoritative, legacy media, and what makes something misinformation or harmful. Then they created this whole other separate category called borderline harmful content, which means it's not actually harmful, but they kind of don't really like the directions it's going, or they don't like the opinion, or they don't like what it's saying for whatever reason. And so, well, they can put that under the same umbrella and nix it. Basically, this blog post is something very similar to that. So, removing content that violates our policies. According to the community guidelines, YouTube says that there can't be spam or scams or other manipulated media, coordinated influence operations, and any content that seeks to incite violence. Since September, we have terminated over 8,000 channels and thousands of harmful and misleading elections-related videos for violating our existing policies, and they claim that over 77% of those removed videos were taken down before they had 100 views, which could mean one of two things. It could be that it's little nothing creators that only have 100 subs or something, or it could mean the fact that YouTube has these algorithms that kind of just go through and they screen out the audio of videos while they're being processed. And there's this whole little process that goes through. You upload your video and you sit there and you wait, and it says processing and processing. I need to turn the sound off on this. Someone is texting me frantically here. Wait, what? Okay, hold on. Dead stop. Someone was frantically texting me because apparently the Zodiac cipher has been cracked by code experts. Today. They cracked the Zodiac code letters. Oh, that is so cool. Oh, that is awesome. All right, well, maybe if we have time at the end, we'll go through that for funsies. Because again, it's my inner basic bitch. I love me some true crime. Very cool. And the Zodiac's one of my favorites. Anyways, okay. What was I saying? Yes, so whenever you upload a video, there is this like processing that goes on in the background, and YouTube will flat out tell you that it takes about 20 minutes, and their algorithm is going through and like combing through like the visuals and the audio and stuff like that to make sure that there's nothing that they're just going to auto flag. So when you get a video that's auto flagged, it's because there was something in there that the algorithm didn't like. So it could be, like I said, small, dinky channels that aren't getting like a ton of views, or it could be that these things are being sniped by some AI computer algorithm. And, you know, who knows what they're actually really saying? Who knows if that algorithm is accurate? Who knows what's going on? But, you know, things are getting sniped early. That's really all you need to know. We also work to make sure that the line between what is removed and what is allowed is drawn in the right place. Obviously, there is some contention over this, and the fun thing is if you are a really big creator that has one of those direct lines to YouTube, so you can get, you know, anytime your video gets flagged, you can ask for it to be reviewed by a human being. Well, the thing about that is that they have like just these little rule sheets that they look at, right? And a lot of those human reviewers are outsourced to other countries, which is fabulous. So they might not understand the nuance or the sarcasm, or maybe there's a language barrier. Either way, they just have like a sheet of paper with like check boxes. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. There's like no room for nuance with any of that. But if you are a big time, super cool creator with that direct line for YouTube, you can actually petition Google for an additional by hand review, which usually nets you better results, but man, we're not cool enough for that here. So they say our policies prohibit misleading viewers about where and how to vote. We also disallow content alleging widespread fraud or errors changed the outcome of a historical U.S. presidential election. That is something brand new to me. However, in some cases, that has meant allowing controversial views on the outcome or process of counting votes of a current election, as election officials have worked to finalize the counts. And now this is where things get important, or were important, for the Texas lawsuit that now has been dismissed. So I guess it's a moot point at this point, but we'll go through it anyways. Yesterday was the safe harbor deadline for the U.S. presidential election, and enough states have certified their election results to determine a president-elect. That is not... I'm trying to figure out how I can say this in a way that doesn't get nuked. So the thing is states can certify their election results, but it's not until the electors actually vote that things are set in stone. And at this point, even though there are states that have certified their election results, those certifications are contested by many states and many people in many different areas. One such example was Texas, and Texas was suing the states of Pennsylvania, Georgia, Wisconsin, and Arizona, I think was the fourth one, not based on accusations of fraud. So we're kind of allowed to talk about it. Texas was suing those states based on the fact that they changed their rules for their elections without going through the state legislature, which is a violation of the electoral clause, I believe it's called. Either way, it was in violation of election rules. So any change to election rules is supposed to be going through the state legislature. They didn't do that. So Texas is saying that then those results are contested because it violated the Constitution. So we had Texas saying that. Then we had 17 states I believe it was, jump on board with that, with Texas. I know that South Carolina was on the list, Missouri, Arkansas, Alabama. There was a long list, mostly southern and Midwestern states. Then we had 20 states and territories jump on the defendant side. So they were jumping on in support of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona. And those were states, of course, like New Jersey and Massachusetts and Guam. What really struck me is they were described as people who were talking about this lawsuit were talking about it being red states versus blue states, which is concerning on several levels for a few historical reasons that we've talked about on this channel, but also contain words that we're not allowed to say. But it rhymes with, oh, what did someone say that it rhymes with last week? Fivel bore or something. I don't know. Where have we heard that before? What surprised me is it was described as red versus blue, but a couple of the states that had jumped on the blue bandwagon were Virginia and North Carolina. And now I know that people watch North Carolina and it's supposed to be like a swing state or something, but like, I don't know, I think of North Carolina as like the South, like barely South, but the South. And Virginia, I mean, granted, we had all that crazy gun control come through last winter and all the hullabaloo and controversy around that. Yes, the cities in Virginia and the areas surrounding or outside of DC, very blue, but the rest of the state isn't. So I was really surprised that they got lumped in as a blue state and they joined into that. That was very disappointing. Anyways, so technically speaking, because of that lawsuit at the time, and there are still some states and people contesting the results. There are, I think there's a pending lawsuit in Pennsylvania still. Nevertheless, it meant that at the time that this article or blog was published, the results and certifications were being contested. So they weren't set in stone yet. So there really wasn't enough to determine, legally speaking, the president-elect. So YouTube is just making crap up as an excuse for deleting stuff, basically. So after that little assertion here, they say, given that, and this is the part of why we have to be careful the way we discuss this here, given that we will start removing any piece of content uploaded today or any time after that misleads people by alleging that widespread fraud or errors changed the outcome of the 2020 U.S. presidential election in line with our approach towards historical U.S. presidential elections. I wonder if that would be different if this wasn't considered a historical presidential election. Like, what does that even mean? Oh. For example, we will remove videos claiming that a presidential candidate won the election due to widespread software glitches or counting errors. We will begin enforcing this policy today and will ramp up in the weeks to come. As always, news coverage and commentary on these issues can remain on our site if there's sufficient education, documentary, scientific, or artistic context. But they don't really explain. Well, maybe they do if we go to this link. But I'm willing to bet we don't. Oh, no, this is from their September thing. Yeah, they don't. Their definitions of what stands for educational, documentary, scientific, or artistic content is... It's strange. They don't actually spell out what they consider that because, for example, I had that video that I did where I was talking about a New York Times op-ed and calling out some errors in that op-ed and having some opinions about that op-ed, and that actually got hit as being hate speech and was accused of being terrorism. You guys might remember that. I then made a live stream and talked about how YouTube was calling me a terrorist. There's also been times where I have done videos looking at scientific studies and scientific information and pulling apart the study, critiquing the study for, some misleading articles about it that were very different from what the study actually said, or looking at their methods and their sample sizes and things like that. That got flagged by YouTube as being inappropriate and harmful. But it was literally talking about science. So I don't know what the hell they mean by education, documentary, scientific, or artistic context. There were even times where I did videos and talked about like controversial topics from a psychological perspective because I am a therapist. That is my job, and they flagged it even though it was content that was meant educationally. So, anyways, and check this out. They have like this random little infographic here about the top channels and the top videos for the election. We have ABC, NBC, USA Today, CNN, and CBS. It's funny, C-SPAN isn't even on here. Top videos also came from ABC News, USA Today, NBC, CBS, and another NBC. Wow. That is a lot of variation there that is clearly about the small creators. And then they go on about how YouTube is so important to being a source of election news. On average, 88% of the videos in the top 10 search results related to elections came from authoritative news sources. Of course, amongst the rest are things like newsy late night shows, creator videos, and commentary. That is a flat out lie because let me tell you, I cannot look for news on YouTube anymore. If I am looking for a specific story, for example, and I'm not looking for if I'm looking for a certain story or a certain video, so say I'm looking for, I don't know, say Matt Christensen does a story on something and I want to go see his video, I type it into the search bar. I can even type in like the title of his video. I get ABC coverage, NBC coverage, Fox coverage of that same story. I don't get his video. Anytime I put any kind of news story or anything that has happened in the world into the search bar on YouTube, I get the same crap that's on TV. I don't ever get commentary, or I'll get those late night TV shows from like, I don't know, John Oliver or whatever his name is, and that's not what I'm looking for. Anyways. And of course, and the most viewed channels and videos are from news channels like NBC and CBS. And they act like this is a good thing because they are interested in basically replacing cable. You know, they're not about little creators anymore or artistic commentary or any of that the way they used to be. It is all about being corporate and making money. And I understand there has to be profit and they want to make money just like any other company, but they have very long ago left their old mission. And then they go on and on about how awesomely they covered the election and election day and fact checking, blah, 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 and how they're going to be changing recommendations again, to authoritative news content. In fact, the top 10 authoritative news channels were recommended over 14 times more than the top 10 non-authoritative channels on election-related content. Now, remember, we talked about this last year. They had talked about changes to suggested videos and how they were only really going to be suggesting this authoritative content in their suggested videos and steering people away from smaller creators or anyone that they deemed borderline or controversial or any of that. And it used to be that you have this little, so there's this little extension you can download, right, called TubeBuddy. And when you look at it, it'll tell you like how many, like say you watch one of your videos and then TubeBuddy will pop up and it will tell you how many of your own videos pop up in the suggested videos. Ever since they have made this change, every time it is 0. Every single time it is 0. And when I watch videos on other people's channels, whether it's like Sticks or Matt Christensen or whoever else, even, Roaming Millennial, Lauren Chen, whatever she's going by now, it's 0. It's always 0, unless you are someone with like 1 million subscribers or more. And they talked about how they had this whole policy now where they were purposely going to be steering people away. Even if you were watching, say, my videos, then they would immediately after it place a video that's supposed to sort of like counteract whatever I have to say because I'm considered borderline. So this is just another step in this whole little world of censorship that they're doing. And look how long, we welcome ongoing debate and discussion. Yeah, okay. Our teams work hard to ensure we are striking a balance between allowing for a broad range of political speech and making sure our platform isn't abused to incite real-world harm or broadly spread harmful misinformation. But see, the thing is what they are regulating at this point, they are regulating opinions. If someone has an opinion that there was something, an error related to certain things that we're not allowed to talk about, or opinions on like COVID, that's a really good example. Opinions on COVID-1984, for example, which they don't like you to talk about either. An opinion is free speech. It's supposed to be protected by free speech. But when they do things like this, they are creating editorial guidelines, kind of like a newspaper would or a magazine would, of what content is and isn't allowable. And technically speaking, they are protected under Section 230, but there is a specific section, and I have to actually look up the section. So it's under the Protection for Good Samaritan section. We're gonna look this up. Oh, I had it open already. All right, I thought that I had missed it. So part of Section 230, right, is this little section here. Protection for Good Samaritan blocking and screening of offensive material. So this is the part of Section 230 that technically protects YouTube, but there could be some arguments that they're no longer acting on good faith. So this section says, treatment of publisher or speaker. No provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. And then it protects them from civil liability. No provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be held liable on account of any action voluntarily taken in good faith to restrict access to or availability of material that the provider or user considers to be obscene, lewd, lascivious. I always say this word wrong. lascivious, filthy, excessively violent, harassing, or otherwise objectionable, whether or not such material is constitutionally protected, or B, any action taken to enable or make available to information content providers or others the technical means to restrict access to material described in paragraph 1. So the key here is good faith, but they are expressly putting out editorial guidelines that are against Trump supporters and some of his most fervent supporters. And they are saying they're going to delete content, they're going to delete channels. And so this isn't going to hit Democrats, right? It's only going to hit Republicans and conservatives. So I think when they're making an argument for something or a policy, something that targets one side over the other, can we say anymore that that is good faith? Does that violate the good faith argument of Section 230? I mean, additionally, if they are making editorial guidelines, then they're no longer considered a provider. I mean, that puts them in publisher territory. You know, if someone writes an article in some newspaper, right, and it ends up having some like libel in it or something or whatever, then that person can turn around and sue the newspaper or sue the news organization. We saw that with like the Covington Catholic kids, for example. Oh, they turned around and you betcha they sued those publishers for defamation and all kinds of stuff, right? So if a newspaper can get sued for something written that's within the editorial guidelines, I mean, technically speaking, YouTube is doing the same thing. It's just an online platform, right? But I mean, they're still following into the publisher guidelines, especially when you consider something like the YouTube Partner Program, where they're paying you to put stuff on their platform. There are some legal arguments that some people are making to hold them accountable as an employer. Like I haven't really looked into those much, so I don't know much about it. But you know, we keep getting back into this argument of, you know, provider versus publisher and platform versus publisher. And they just keep putting out these guidelines and editorializing things and deciding more and more and more and more what is and isn't allowed on their site. And of course, there is always the argument about private websites being able to moderate their communities. But when it is at the point now that this is how the majority of Americans are getting their news, and this is how they're seeing the debates, and this is how candidates are reaching people, just like, you know, on Twitter, I mean, that kind of puts it into, that changes the argument a little bit. And it brings up some different questions. I'm going to get into the super chats now. And actually, I don't have that extra window open here. I have lots of windows open, but that is not one of them to make sure that I'm grabbing them all. So let me open that up real quick with my 3 monitors like a BAMF. Because I saw there was a few that came in. Okay, so we have, let's see. I want to make sure that I'm getting the early ones as well. Chester Thomas, wow, YouTube actually notified him this time. That's amazing. I have someone who forwards me the notifications once they get them, and on Tuesday, his only came 20 minutes late, which is pretty amazing, seeing as the week before it was 2 days late. Alien Probe Victim says, Jesse just texted me and said his Wi-Fi is screwing up and he can't join tonight. I saw in the chat he was saying something about his Wi-Fi. He said if I don't send you some money on his behalf, he will kick me in the blank. Get creative there. So since I can make him pay me this back, I'm going crazy with his money. LOL. Well, thank you. Thank you for being generous with Jesse's money. Oh. J. Derek Williams says, have you considered posting certain content on Rumble? Maybe you could do a weekly live stream on Rumble. I have no idea what Rumble is. I know people have mentioned it before. I don't know anything about it. So a lot of people are like, oh, we'll go to other platforms, go to other platforms. Well, the thing is I am hoping that if my friend can move down here, he's really good with OBS and stuff like that, and he does some like video game streaming. I am hoping he can show me how to set up and properly use OBS so I can go through Restream, and with Restream I can put it out wherever I want. So I could go on YouTube and Facebook and whatever Rumble is, and DLive and Streamlabs and whatever I want all at the same time and get it across all of the platforms. BitChute has also announced that they now have live stream capability, but I don't believe it's actually live or happening yet. That will also be a possibility. Unfortunately, it makes it difficult because the bulk of the audience is on YouTube. And while other people will follow to other platforms, there's also a lot of people like me that have a lot of trouble learning to use new platforms and how they work, or we forget about them or whatever. That's the issue number one. And the issue number two is right now, YouTube is the only platform that has anything remotely even close to the partner program. So that makes it really difficult too if you have someone like me, for example, who's in this weird limbo because South Carolina, I'm waiting for South Carolina to approve my therapy license. I'm limited to the people I can see from Massachusetts because of distance counseling. So right now, like, YouTube is my job. Without the partner program, I would not be, well, I would still be paying my bills, but I would have to rely only on Patreon and PayPal donations. The partner program, as much as they frequently nuke my videos, they've been getting a little bit better about that, and like the live stream super chats and things like that. I mean, unfortunately, there are a lot of creators that rely on that. So it kind of becomes, I don't want to call it extortion, but they get stuck where YouTube really becomes their only option for that reason. But I really am hoping to get some help with that so that we can branch out across multiple platforms to not be as reliant on YouTube, is my hope. Bruce the Boss Brooks, with his tongue twister name, says, if authoritative media called the Hunter Biden story a Russian hoax in October, does YouTube still consider them authoritative or flag the post? That is a really good question, because something else that we learned this week is that Hunter Biden is being investigated, and he has been under investigation since, I believe, 2018. AG Barr knew about it since the spring and just didn't say anything about it to not affect the election. And he's being investigated, they say, because of tax issues, but also money laundering related to some of the deals that he made with Papa Joe and China and the Ukraine and all of these people. So that's exciting. They're finally talking about it now that Joe Biden is the president-elect, or presumed president-elect, because I know some people are going to be mad for me saying that. So That's exciting. Christoph says, did you see Crenshaw take down Pelosi? No, I did not. She admits to withholding coronavirus relief for politics. The response to Crenshaw has me convinced Hawaiian barbecue is coming. Well, I mean, there's been a lot of things that are looking like Hawaiian barbecue. And I mean, if BuzzFeed is talking about it, that's pretty bad. I mean, just the fact that we just had like 20 states suing 20 other states, and they were going down party lines and basically dividing the country in half. And Texas is talking about secession again, and it's actually been being introduced, I think, by a Texas representative. There's talk of like California breaking off into multiple states. There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. So who knows? I just know if it happens, I am in the right state now. Robbie Rutherford says that's Northern Virginia. They're basically DC, talking about how Virginia joined the blue states in that lawsuit. Matthew Perkins said, what I find truly amazing about the Swalwell story is that he's into women. Who knew? Ted Cruz had a fire tweet today, and I thought it was amazing. Man's got jokes. Honestly, he's got some good jokes. He said, I'll pull it up for you guys here. I don't know why I'm doing this on my phone and not for you guys to see, but whatever. So Ted Cruz said today, more than once I've said, screw the Chinese communists. Little did I know how closely Swalwell was listening. And that's based on, there's some story that came out that basically Swalwell had some intimate relations with a alleged Russian or Chinese spy. Sorry, Chinese, not Russian. Alien Probe victim now says, crap, gotta run. Jesse has me teaching a low light shooting course since he's still in Arkansas. I'll watch the rest tomorrow. Nice to see y'all again. Bye. Have fun. And okay, let's see. I saw some other ones came in since I was looking at those. It's weird that they didn't pop up over there, but Iron Daisy says 3 monitors. You're a capitalist. I am. LaFiva says, I heard capitalism was originally something about separating the government from the market before Marxism was invented. Is this true? I don't actually know. Probably not, because I'm imagining capitalism is pretty dang old. But Bastiat talked about separating, well, in his book, The Law, he basically talked about how the law and government is bad for economics. So, I mean, it's certainly part of the philosophy behind it, I suppose. Andy says, early Merry Christmas to you and Mr. LD. Oh, thank you, Andy. Money's for ammo, disc golf gear, or Pokemon cards. I actually have a disc golf tournament tomorrow, and I have a new grip and a new walk-up, and I threw really, really far today, and it was really exciting. I know you guys don't care. Oh, and right above that, Warhorse 500 says, Rumble is the YouTube alternative that is partially owned by Dan. I don't even know how to say this guy's name. Mentally, I always call him Bogingo, but that's not Bongino. I don't know. That guy. You guys know who I'm talking about. Yet people are saying Rumble is a free speech alternative to YouTube. Well, I mean, I can look it up. The other Warhorse, this is Warhorse 03826, says Rumble, DLive, Odyssey, BitChute, what other ones? Yes, I am on Library and Odyssey as well, which is basically the same thing Squid Monkey says Bumble. No. Trashman says, my notification was only 17 minutes late, a new speed record. That is a very good record. And J. Derek Williams says, Rumble is owned by some of the same people who own Parler. They have live stream capabilities. All right. Good to know. I guess we'll have to check it out. And then Ghost Shadow says some channels are going nuts with ads. Have seen videos that have an ad play every 3 minutes. Okay, so that is actually a YouTube setting that is it's automatic. So now anytime a video is uploaded that is 8 minutes long or over, YouTube, when you go into monetization settings, there's there's a checkbox for ads before video, during video, and after video. Now, when you upload anything that is 8 minutes or longer, the ads during video is automatically checked off. I've actually had a couple of times where I don't know why they wouldn't let me uncheck it. So I've left it like unlisted and came back the next day, and then I was able to like uncheck the box. I would imagine some people just don't look at that. But I think that that's really, really annoying, and I don't want to do that to you guys. So I leave that box blank. If you guys are still getting ads in the middle of a video, then I don't know what's going on with that, because that's not supposed to happen, and I am not doing that. I only set it for before and after. Sometimes they allow that, sometimes they don't. It's like 50-50. I don't really know what the qualifications for that are, but I do not put ads during the middle of a video. So if you're getting them, then that's pretty shady. And all right, so now we're going to jump into this Facebook lawsuit. I actually have to go through all of my windows here and find this tab. Is this it? Yes, it is. I'm going to be real with you. Sometimes, I have trouble understanding some of this tech stuff that goes on. Now I'm trying to find you guys again. Here we go. I guess that's probably not news to most of you, but so we'll go through this one together. So right now, the FTC Commission calls for breakup of Facebook, and at the same time, Tulsi Gabbard actually is putting forth some bill or something that I guess is backed by Trump that would also put an end to social media censorship, which is interesting. We'll get to that if we have some time. People are saying just throw in some MyPillow ads. That would be cool. I would be on board with having MyPillow advertise on my videos. I'd be okay with that. All right, so this FTC lawsuit is calling for the breakup of Facebook and trying to require them to sell off their assets like Instagram and WhatsApp. And it is a federal court lawsuit. This is kind of funny. In the graphic, it says one hacker way. Okay, so this came out 2 days ago, but this is by NBC News. I know it's NBC, but we got to do what you got to do. The Federal Trade Commission sued to break up Facebook on Wednesday, asking a federal court to force the sell-off of assets such as Instagram and WhatsApp as independent businesses. And they say Facebook has maintained its monopoly position by buying up companies that present competitive threats and by imposing restrictive policies that unjustifiably hinder actual or potential rivals that Facebook does not or cannot acquire, the commission said in the lawsuit filed in D.C. And this, I don't know how truthful that is. I would imagine that it's probably pretty accurate. I know that there has been a lot of little rival companies that popped up that weren't able to keep the lights on for various reasons. Some of them were related to competition. I remember VidMe was one. I really liked VidMe. And they just, in the end, flat out shut down. And they had a little tip jar on there that I never actually got to get paid out of. And there was like $20 in there. There was people that had over time had tipped me $20 and I never got it, but whatever. But certainly you do see this with Google. I mean, Google goes after competitors for sure. Anyway, so the lawsuit asks the court to order the selling of assets or reconstruction of businesses, including but not limited to Instagram and or WhatsApp, as well as other possible relief the court might want to add. It says the lack of scrutiny in these U.S. tech companies has changed recently with a series of lawsuits that now threaten to rein in the dominance of big American tech firms that have grown to be among the world's most valuable companies. And I will admit, I have some ambivalence about this, which means, some conflicting views, because on the one hand, these companies, like something like Facebook or Google or whatever, Twitter, what have you. I don't think that we should be in the business of punishing companies for becoming so big and successful. That's pretty amazing that they've done that. And the way that markets work, if they want to, if smaller companies can't compete for whatever reason, that's just economics. But at the same time, we're not in a free market system, and typically it is actual government policies and laws that allow these monopolies to form in the first place and then to continue to flourish. So, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It's interesting now, though, that these big conglomerates that are really only possible through government intervention and loopholes and things like that are now being attacked by the government, which is kind of funky, but attorneys general from 48 states and territories said they were filing their own lawsuit against Facebook, reflecting the broad and bipartisan concern about how much power Facebook and its CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, have accumulated on the internet. And now this is all nice and well and good, but the fact that it's 48 states, I can hardly imagine that this has anything to do with, say, free speech, and it's probably like, I don't know, they think that it's election meddling or Russia or blah, 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 anything to do with furthering and pushing their agenda, rather than the fact that Facebook, like YouTube, polices speech of private individuals on a pretty constant and consistent basis, and then the fact checkers that aren't really all that factual when you deep dive into it. I doubt that it really has anything to do with that. I don't believe there is any genuine goodwill behind this, quite frankly. But, they're going to say it is. So, of course, Facebook stocks went down a bit. Breakup Facebook has become a rally cry for the company's critics, from Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, which is how you know that it's disingenuous, to one of Facebook's wealthy founders, Chris Hughes, who last year wrote a 6,000-word case for a breakup. But the idea has never been truly attempted in court. So Facebook said that it is reviewing the two different lawsuits and pointed out that the FTC approved the Instagram and WhatsApp acquisitions at that time. See? Right there. The FTC approved it. They were complicit in this monopoly building that they are now trying to destroy. And I hadn't read this article ahead of time, so I didn't even know that was in there. But look, there we go. Years after the FTC cleared our acquisitions, the government now wants a do-over with no regard for the impact that precedent would have on the broader business community or the people who choose our products every day, Facebook said in a statement, adding that it would have more to say soon. Zuckerberg has previously vowed a vigorous defense. Last year, he told employees in an internal meeting that if the government sued to break up Facebook, then I would bet we will have a legal challenge, and I would bet that we will win the legal challenge. At the end of the day, if someone's going to try to threaten something that existential, you go to the mat and you fight, Zuckerberg said. It would create an interesting precedent that the government can force companies to break up and sell off their assets. That would create an interesting precedent that could be very dangerous. Even if government lawyers win a judgment against Facebook, it would be up to a federal judge what to do about the company's dominant position. It's rare for a big company to be broken up, but it happened in the past, as with AT&T in 1984. And well, now AT&T sucks. Facebook bought Instagram for $1 billion in 2012 in a deal that was approved by the FTC at the time in a 5-0 vote at a time when Instagram wasn't widely used. Facebook bought WhatsApp in 2014 for around $22 billion. Damn! This time, the FTC's vote to sue was 3-2, with Republican Chairman Joseph Simmons joining the commission's two Democrats, Rebecca Kelly Slaughter and Rohit Chopra, in favor of bringing the suit. The state suit does not explicitly call for Facebook to be broken apart, instead asking a federal court to halt Facebook's anti-competitive conduct in general and take any other action that the court sees fit. How would they enforce that, though? Like, honestly. I mean, I guess maybe if Facebook has to get FTC permission to buy stuff, then they would enforce it by saying no to them. But like, if the government gave them permission in the first place, I don't see how they would suddenly change their mind and start enforcing it in the other direction. By using its vast troves of data and money, Facebook has squashed or hindered what the company perceived as threats, New York Attorney General Letitia James said in a news conference announcing the state's lawsuit. Oh, she's the same one that's suing the NRA and has promised to break up the NRA. That's kind of funny. James said that the state's lawsuit was aimed not only at Facebook's past acquisitions of rivals, but on its treatment of competitor apps. She said Facebook squeezed oxygen from the tech industry with its practices. And then she makes some other comments. I don't really want to... Oh, I guess there's not a ton left. I don't want to just sit here and read articles at you. But it says that in October, the Justice Department and 11 states sued Google, alleging it had used its enormous size to illegally monopolize the market for search-related advertising. And there has been a lot of evidence that has come up about Google's biases in their search engines, but I don't really think much happened with it. Last month, European authorities accused Amazon of hurting competition by using independent sellers' data for its own benefit. That would not really surprise me. Facebook is already facing a proposed class action brought by app developers claiming illegal monopolistic behavior. And last year, Facebook agreed to pay $5 billion to the FTC to end an investigation into the company's privacy practices, a record penalty, but one the company's critics dismissed as meaningless. Well, yeah, I mean, if they have $22 billion to just like throw at buying an app, $5 billion probably really isn't that much to them. So that's what's going on with that. And of course, Biden is on board, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Let's see. Gardner Goldsmith, thank you, sent a super chat that says 10. Oh, goodness. So I'm going to pull up... Okay, well, I'm going to leave it to you guys. So we have about 15 minutes left while I put up these other super chats. Do we want to look at the, find the Tulsi Gabbard bill against tech censorship, or do we want to see what's going on with the Zodiac killer? So I'll give you guys a moment here to decide and figure it out. Meanwhile, Miso Trashed says, waiting for the Who is Liberty Doll t-shirts. I mean, I know that some people said that, but I don't think they were very serious. And now Andrew Kang says 1010. And then Cap and Max says, Liberty Doll, we let Tim Pool read to us. Yeah, but I don't know. I try not to do that here too much. I wanted to do it with this just because, like, I don't know. Sometimes these legal suits and things can get a little convoluted, and so I was like, let's read directly from the source with that one. All right. So far, we've got votes for Zodiac. All right. So let me pull up this article that my friend sent me, and then I'll find it on online. So okay. I'm gonna tell her too that I'm about to read it on my stream. So everyone thank my friend Alyssa for sending this to me. So, okay. So this is from the San Francisco Chronicle. The Zodiac 340 cipher. Cracked. Oh, wow. Oh, damn, it's being pulled by Forbes, Washington Post. Oh, cool. So this is really legit. Oh, I'm really excited about this. Okay. All right. So this one we are going to read together because this just broke a couple hours ago, apparently. And I haven't read it yet. Oh, this is so cool. Okay. So Zodiac 340 cipher cracked by code experts 51 years after it was sent to the San Francisco Chronicle. Oh, I'm like giddy here. And then it has the photos of like the cipher and the police sketches. Here's the cipher and the investigators, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. The solution to what's known as the 340 cipher, one of the most vexing mysteries of the Zodiac Killer's murderous saga, has been found by a code-breaking team from the United States, Australia, and Belgium. The cipher, sent in a letter to the Chronicle in November 1969, has been puzzling authorities and amateur sleuths since it arrived 51 years ago. Investigators hoped the Zodiac, who killed 5 people and who people think is Ted Cruz, which is kind of funny because he looks like the police sketch. Investigators hoped the Zodiac, who killed 5 people in the Bay Area in 1968 and 1969, would reveal his name in one of his many ciphers, but there is no such name in the 340. Womp womp. I guess if there was, then they would have said, oh my God, Zodiac solved, and that would have been the title of the article. According to a code-breaking expert, David Orenchak, the cipher's text includes, I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise. All the sooner because I now have enough slaves to work for me. What? Oh, and that's interesting with the misspelling of paradise. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. So, I mean, this is definitely some delusional stuff in here. Okay. Orenchak, a 46-year-old web designer who lives in Virginia, has been working on the Zodiac's codes since 2006. This is exciting, Orenchak said in an interview Friday. We've been sitting on the solution since last Saturday. When I first started looking at the Zodiac ciphers all those years ago, I thought, oh, I can just write a computer program and solve it. But it's been kicking my A all this time until now. Cameron Pollan, spokeswoman for the FBI's San Francisco office, confirmed Orenchak's claim Friday. In a statement emailed to the Chronicle, she said, the FBI is aware that a cipher attributed to the Zodiac Killer was recently solved by private citizens. The Zodiac Killer case remains an ongoing investigation for the FBI San Francisco division and our local law enforcement partners. The Zodiac Killer terrorized multiple communities across Northern California, and even though decades have gone by, we continue to seek justice for the victims of these brutal crimes. She continued, and I see in the corner Brad the Magnificent says, this is the Zodiac speaking. Due to the ongoing nature of the investigation and out of respect for the victims and their families, we will not be providing further comment at this time. Of course. This is the second time a Zodiac cipher has been cracked. The first one long cipher sent in pieces to the Chronicle, San Francisco Examiner, and Vallejo Times-Herald newspapers in 1969 was solved by a Salinas school teacher and his wife. Known as the 408 cipher, it said little beyond, "I like killing because it is so much fun." To crack the 340 cipher, so named because it contains 340 characters, Oranchak teamed up with two fellow amateur code crackers and ran the bewildering set of symbols through special software programs. His teammates were Sam Blake, a mathematician in Australia, and Jarl van Eyck, I'm guessing, a warehouse operator in Belgium. "I could not have done this without them," he said. "All of us in the crypto community on the Zodiac figured the cipher had another step beyond just figuring out what letters belonged to the symbols, and that's just what we found here." Let me read more. Okay. So here is the actual solution to the 340 cipher, according to Oranchak and his team. "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. That wasn't me on the TV show, which brings up a point about me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise. All the sooner because I now have enough slaves to work for me, where everyone else has nothing when they reach paradise, so they are afraid of death. I am not afraid because I know that my new life is That doesn't make sense. I am not afraid because I know that my new life will be an easy one in paradise, death." Interesting. Okay. It would be cool if it said more about him, but I mean, the misspellings of paradise are interesting, and the fact that he's talking about having enough slaves, that's definitely some psychosis going on there, which is interesting. I mean, clearly someone who does stuff like the Zodiac is not mentally stable and healthy, but psychosis is something different altogether. Chronicle reporter Kevin Fagan will talk about the Zodiac at 6 p.m. on Friday. And then there's a video that we can go watch, or you can go watch. You know what? I'll post this in the comments for you guys. So that you'll be able to check it out on your own and go and see the video or something. Oranchak's findings started leaking out on some of the many Zodiac amateur sleuth forums, such as ZodiacKillersite.com, over the past couple of days, causing much excitement in that widespread world of true crime buffs. In most ciphers, like the 408, the solution consists mainly of figuring out which letters are represented by certain symbols. In the 340 cipher, it turned out that the alignments of the words runs diagonally down the page, and they occasionally get shifted over a column. Oh, that's interesting. That's really complicated and complex. It's a complicated bit of code creation, Oranchak said, but a basic scheme for it can be found in at least one U.S. Army code manual from the 1950s. Oh, that's even more interesting. Okay. As the team began breaking down the methods in the cipher, they unpeeled a couple of phrases that let them know they were on the right track. They were references to gas chamber and the TV show, which seemed to refer to Jim Dunbar's AM San Francisco show on KGO-TV that aired in October 1969. On that show, Dunbar and attorney Melvin Belly took a call from a person claiming to be the Zodiac, and he said, "I don't want to go to the gas chamber." Ah, okay. In the solved cipher, the Zodiac writes, "That wasn't me on the TV show. We knew we had something because of the Dunbar show," Oranchak said. "One of the interesting things about this is that it forces the minimum date of the cipher's construction. Maybe he had one and adjusted it, but couldn't have been in that form prior to October 22nd when the Dunbar show aired, when the Chronicle got the 340 letter. The Chronicle published a story on the letter and the cipher on November 12th. The San Francisco Police Department, like the FBI, was short on reaction Friday to the cipher's solution beyond acknowledging the code had been cracked. The Zodiac's last victim, taxi driver Paul Stein, was shot to death by the Zodiac in October 1969 in San Francisco. And like any homicide, it's still an open case until it's solved. Our statement is very much in line with what the FBI said Sergeant Michael Andrachak, a department spokesman. We're aware of the cipher solution and continuing to try to solve this case. That's about all we have to say for now. However, former city homicide inspector Gianrico Pierucci, who oversaw the Zodiac case for several years before retiring in 2017, said the new solution probably doesn't advance the investigation much. Okay. The difficulty of the code indicates the murderer was intelligent, but the bragging about slaves and misspelled word paradise was already present in other Zodiac writings. Besides being taunting again, psychologically, which is what he's good at, there's not a lot else. He said, what you really want is, does it give you a location, an address, some sort of riddle you can figure out, a certain person, a job, anything that gives you a clue to who he is. But it is what it is, he said, and it's good to finally have it solved. The Zodiac sent 2 other ciphers to newspapers that are left to decode, and in at least one of his communications, the killer said his name was in one of his ciphers. But I mean, he could have just been saying that. That's the one the code breakers have to work on now, Pierucci said. We need his name. The name most commonly put forth as the most likely man to be the Zodiac is convicted child blanker, can't say that word on YouTube, and Navy veteran Arthur Leigh Allen of Vallejo. Despite scores of theories by amateur sleuths about suspects, many in books and communications sent to the Chronicle for decades, Allen is the only suspect ever named by investigators. However, he died at 58 of a heart attack in 1992 before police could build enough of a case to charge him. Meanwhile, police in all 3 counties with the Zodiac killed, San Francisco, Solano, and Napa, continue to receive tips and investigate leads in the old mystery. It is arguably the most famous unsolved murder case in America. The Zodiac's first victims were David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, shot to death in their car on December 20th, 1968 in Benicia. Next came Darlene Ferrin and Mike Mago, I believe it is, in Vallejo in July 1969, a shooting that Mago survived. Cecilia Shepard and Brian Hartnell were stabbed at Lake Berryessa in September 1969. Hartnell survived. Sam Blake, one of the trio who solved the 340 cipher, became interested in the case after seeing some of Oranchak's work online. On Friday, from his home in Melbourne, Australia, he said the team tested around 650,000 different reading directions through the cipher before coming up with the right combinations. Wow. We now understand why it resisted attacks for so long, Blake said in an email. The reading direction through the cipher was so obscure that the only way it could be found was with a massive search through many candidates using sophisticated software which can efficiently solve homophonic substitution ciphers. I mean, it's amazing that this guy came up with this then. But even so far from the murder scenes, conquering the science of the puzzle didn't dissuade him from the most basic element of the case, the human element. We would like to dedicate our work that culminated in this solution to the victims of the Zodiac killer, their families, and descendants, Blake wrote. We hope this is a stepping stone towards finding justice for these people. Wow, that is pretty cool. I'm wondering if like some of the other articles have other information, but that is pretty darn cool. Some people are saying, like Tim Allen says, my My unprofessional opinion is that the Zodiac killer was a psychopath. Well, there are psychopaths and sociopaths. Technically, the difference doesn't actually exist in the DSM and some of the scientific literature, but I mean, there is a difference between the two. Brian French says slaves are who he murdered. That's a possibility. John Sparks says he may be psycho, but he's genius. He's a genius. Yeah. Yeah. Q says there really isn't much there. David Neal says next they will finally solve the Black Dahlia murder. Well, there's a podcast that I listened to called The Root of All Evil that actually makes a really, really good case. I don't remember the guy's name, but it is told from the perspective of these two women who were told these stories by their mother, I believe. I can't remember. The name is escaping me right now, but it's the Root of Evil podcast, and it is really, really convincing as to who it is. Let's see. Alex Vendetti, this has nothing to do with the story, but I want to read this. He says that my grandfather passed away last night. He was in my arms a few hours before talking to me, telling me he loved me. That's very sad. I'm very sorry for your loss, Alex. That is really terrible. Really terrible. Andy thinks the misspellings are more code. Shane Lackey says the gas chamber in Georgia, they say "Ol' Sparky." It is what it is. Wadrick says that the slave thing sounds like schizophrenia. Yeah, that's possible. I mean, there are several psychotic disorders that are kind of along that spectrum that delusions and things like that are a part of, but certainly to me at least, it gives a little bit more window into his like mental world. But I mean, that's just because I'm a therapist. I mean, it doesn't really say much else, unfortunately. All right, so I'm going to refresh over here and make sure that I got all of these super chats, and then we are going to wrap up so that I can go do D&D. Oh, this is what I missed. Excuse me, I'm like burping from my seltzer water here. Trashman says, you do realize that you just insinuated that the WAPO is legitimate, don't you? Well, I meant more that, like, excuse me, there were multiple news agencies, organizations, whatever, reporting on it. Okay, so this will be the final super chat of the night from Squid Monkey. He says, Cherokee and Choctaw were the first code languages used in war during World War I. Cherokee was abandoned when it was discovered it was a written language. Choctaw turned to Navajo in World War II. I actually knew that about World War II. I didn't know it went back as far as World War I, so that is pretty cool. All right, folks. So that's it for today. Please make sure to check out Blackout Coffee down in the description. Join the MeWe group if you're interested, and we'll have a few other options for things coming up soon. Again, thank you to Christoph for setting that stuff up and knowing about it, I guess. Not sure when the next videos are going to come out because I'm not going to have time to record again really until Sunday. And I really have to hope that the thing with my microphone is a battery issue or something and not that it's like dead, because then otherwise, I don't know what we're going to do, but we'll do what we can. All right, so this is the last one. Dragon's Talon 1001 says, this just in, Governor Jerry Brown name found in Zodiac cipher. Oh, goodness. All right, guys. So thanks for tuning in. Please thumbs up as it helps the channel. And have a good rest of your weekend. I will see you on Tuesday for the call-in show that is still a text-in show for the time being. All right. Good night.